Hi, my name is Matthew Glebe. I'm a fellow with the Casualty Actuarial Society. I live in Skokie, Illinois, which is just north of Chicago, and therefore I'm in the United States and part of North America. The topic is geographic smoothing for equitable school funding. It's hard to realize true investment in education, especially in America. And the reason for that, though, is it just takes decades to take effect. You're unlikely to receive recognition for that effort, and especially here, it ends up getting caught up in partisanship and gridlock due to the first two reasons. One such issue has to do with school funding itself. For primary and secondary education, most of the funding comes from local taxes, usually property taxes. And as a result, if you are in a district that has less economic development or lower home values, you can end up with less money spent per student, and the result is, no surprise, but lower performance overall relative to the countrywide average. Exacerbating the issue is that families often move from a lower quality district to a higher quality district, which drives up the home values, drives up the price, drives up the tax base, drives up the funding for the newer district, and widens the gap further. Proposed solutions do exist, and one is just simply accepting the status quo, and the other is completely doing away with this system entirely and just applying like a state or even federal level grant per school, or just giving the benefit directly and equitably based on number of students or something like that. However, for families, homeowners, and even businesses in a district that is affluent or has good economic development or good schooling, this could be very, very bad and very costly. Needless to say, home values could plummet pretty quickly, and for most Americans, that comprises their largest asset. For families outside of those districts, though, obviously the status quo is not good either, and doing nothing still continues to cause harm. So actuaries do bring something to the table to this what appears to be a binary dilemma, using geographic smoothing as one means to achieve a measured gain. First, we have to recognize that income and resulting taxes from local businesses are not just to a particular district. Consider District A. A business in District A likely receives clients from all the surrounding districts. And similarly, residents of District A likely visit other districts for hiring a contractor or going to the grocery store or the hardware store. So it would make sense that a small portion of that benefit should be shared between locales. Also, the local school district itself is not an island. Providing improvements to the next district over will likely improve this local district and its underlying value. Geographic smoothing, radial, kernel, or otherwise, can be this measured approach, where for District A, we might apply a percentage, the first percentage benefit here, and then we select like the first radial ring, for example, like this. And now we're going to apply for each of the districts that fall within here, which include all these first tier ones. They would get the next benefit from District A's tax base. And then we have another radial circle, and that can apply so on and so forth. So the resulting equation is something like, instead of all the tax benefit going to A being just equivalent to its tax basis itself, it would be a weighted average between A and the surrounding districts. This will allow the governing officials to tweak those weights to approximate and eventually move towards more equity over time, as opposed to being a single-year approach. And this can also enable the beginning of genuine change in school funding.
Let's consider an example. For this demo, I'll be working with the 2022 Illinois Report Card financial data, as well as a shapefile from the National Center for Education Statistics. I am scrambling the connection between the shapefile and the financial data so that we can focus on the technique itself, as opposed to the outcome. The next step is that we need to determine our radial bands. There are adjacent-based smoothing methods, but this demo will showcase a distance-based method. For simplicity, we will calculate the centroid for each district, and find the distance between each centroid and its district boundary. We want to know what is the minimum size we must set for our radial band circumference to ensure that the circle drawn will include districts outside of the given district. That minimum size was determined to be 15.3 kilometers. Illinois itself is 670 by 340 kilometers thereabout, but 15.3 kilometers does still seem a little large. Given more time, we may refine this. Nevertheless, for our demo, we'll continue. After determining the buffer, we can identify which districts intersect with each other district. Unfortunately, the computing power is very steep to calculate the intersection itself for plotting. While this can be computationally expensive for the average citizen on their home computer, utilizing a corporate server for this size of data is near trivial. Now we get to deploy our geographic smoothing technique. There are great alternatives, but for simplicity, I wanted to showcase one that was straightforward to explain. First, we have the weight for A, the weight for each radial band, and finally the weight to be applied to the state. In this example, I am simply comparing the local property taxes and general state aid without adjustment to the pupil level. The sum of the weights should equal 1. Setting the weight for each district A to 1 would result in a perfect relationship between proportion of tax that A pays to the state and the proportion that A receives in aid. Setting the weight of the state to 1 would result in the state dividing the aid up evenly across the districts. We have set values for the weights and are ready to explore the impact. As can be shown here, it appears that the districts who did receive a negative impact, meaning less aid, helped offset many other districts in receiving massive assistance on a percentage basis. Similarly, we can plot the results and show the impacts. This especially helps with communication. Remember that this is all pseudo data, but based on this output, an actuary can adjust the weights and make decisions and continue. While this example only focuses on Illinois, the issue of inadequate funding for schools is in other countries, and there could be merit in considering a transformation towards a more complex but transparent system for providing funding. UNICEF determined that inequity funding for education is a critical problem requiring devotion of resources. We as people are not benefiting from equal opportunities for all to succeed. As a result, we will experience less global growth. Setting up a structure like this to allow an actuary or a government official to adjust weights can achieve small but overall positive impacts, and thereby help spread more equitable school funding.